Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to install the JTP, Iwon Inc, and Hotline Performance rear suspension kit for an S550 Mustang. This will be for 2015 to and up, basically, Mustang. So we have the cradle all prepped and taken apart. I'm sure there's tons of videos how to take that off. If not, watch one of my other videos. We take it apart. I don't go super in depth in it, but it's fairly simple to get that apart. So this kit comes with tow arms, camber arms, lower control arms, sway bar links, basically everything you need to make this thing gangster. We did put new toe bearings in the knuckles, because the factory GTs come with a rubber toe bearing, and I want everything to be solid on this. I also put the Ford Performance ARP wheel hubs in there. So, let's get to it. Alright, I had to go to AutoZone for this one, and I got a Duralast 1 3/8 socket. It tells you use a 1 1/4, and all that does is blows the inside of the bushing out, so I had a hell of a time with the other one. This one is just smaller than the bushing, so you can use this to press it out. So I get everything set up. This is a rental AutoZone ball joint press, and then this is the 1 3/8 right here, the 50-331. It's 3/4 drive, and let's see if this will come out. They're pretty spicy. So, it does take quite a bit. Like, my pneumatic impact wouldn't do it, so just be aware that it is very spicy. Well, there you go. It goes a lot smoother when you've already done it once. So that's how I did it. On the other side, just took about 15 more steps. Then this one's a little cleaner than the other one, but I did take my wire brush and just go in here and kind of clean it out. I don't want to get the grinder in here because it is pressed into aluminum, and with aluminum being so soft, I don't want to lose that press fit. All right, now that all the rust residue from the bearing came out, this is what you'll have at the end. You can see this is pretty rusty and oxidized and stuff. You'll get your new bearing, which is strategically on the floor with all my other junk. And I didn't see anything that called out which way to press this in, but do note that this is chamfered on one side to help you press it in. So we'll go like this, and then I did actually use the 1 1/4 socket to press this in. So I'm gonna get this set up because it's kind of a pain. Okay, so the whole stack up is still too big. So I tapped everything in. This is a little crooked, but it should straighten up. I set everything up, and it does call out to use Loctite on it. So I'll put some Loctite on there. And we'll start pressing this in. So it goes in pretty good. You just don't want to press it too hard because you don't want to mess this bearing up. So once you get it most of the way, then we'll reset this up with the sleeve. All right, now that this is all set up, you want to drive it in. Oh. And you can see I was pressing on the cup a little bit, so you got to be careful to not do that. All right, so it says to center it. I noticed that the factory bushing wasn't perfectly centered, and I noticed that the one I pressed in, I measured, was around 4 millimeters. So this one right now is about 4.5. So I think I need to go just a little bit more. This one's 4.84. This one is 3.56. So as you can see, it needs to be right around 4 millimeters. So I'm gonna go to the other side and try to press this a little bit and get it centered. All right, so I think that I got this as close as possible. It's like 4.2 here, and like 4.0, 4.05-ish. Here, 4.13. I'm sure that, this is a cast piece, so that's really close to being centered. That's a fraction of a millimeter, so very centered. I'm gonna finish this one and get it a little bit better, and I'm happy with that. Next up, we're going to be changing these hubs out, just because I bought a set of hubs over at the Summit Scratch and Dent with the ARP bolts for super cheap. Real excited about these. You can just blow them off, and it's just the 4 bolts. And then we'll take off the brake backing plates because we don't need that. So now that I have this rod end adjusted, I'm going to take my other rod end. I'm going to ensure that they are the same length. So I'll put that in there, and I'll spin this to get it to the same exact length. Easier said than done. All right. So now you can see both rod ends are in, and I might need to adjust that still a little bit, but one of these rod ends is really tight. I think it's this one. Yeah, this one is very tight, so that's why I'm having trouble here. But these are sleeved. Everything slides in perfect. All right, so I got both of my bolts in, and they're pretty straight and level with each other. They slide in and out nice and easy. So that's going to be the height that I set them at. So we're going to lock these jam nuts down and install them. Perfect. And it's done. Okay, now we're going to move on to the rear suspension of the JTP kit. As you can see, I've got all the arms off that were in the factory spot, and I just have the axle in. So basically, if you tore everything apart, it's pretty self-explanatory, and then you'll be at this point to put everything back in if you're just doing the swap. So we got our lower arm. This is our tie rod or tie bar, and then this is our camber arm or upper control arm, and everything should come pretty much like this, ready to go. I've already installed everything. You can see here I've test fit everything, got it to fit exactly like it should. So we're gonna move on to the other side. With this kit, you are gonna need to run a Feal coilover especially for this. So we'll talk about this kit a little bit. Everything came, it's like super good quality. It looks really nice. So this is a little weird. I had to put a spacer on this side just because of the tolerances on the Fords are, not perfect. So this spacer just kept the torque box from hitting the arm. And then these actually lock the arm out, so it can't slide on the subframe. So all your adjustment for camber is going to be in this right here. And then there's also a couple square pieces that go into the subframe right here to lock out your tie bar. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this tie bar in. So you got two spacers for this one. They're both the same, and there is not an up and down on this. So this will slide right in. You might need to hammer it a little bit. I did paint this whole thing, so it's kind of just a tiny bit bigger than what it should be. So take the rubber mallet. Once you get it in there, it should go in pretty easily. And line it up. When you do this for the first time, these squares right here, they will be super tight in there, and you kind of just need to tighten that up so it squeezes into that spot right there and locks them in. I would show you that, but they're pretty tight in there now. I'll put that bolt in, slide this together, and then I don't really have a torque for you on this. I just put everything together with the impact. I'm sure you could get the information online for like the size bolt it is. It's like a, I don't know, 10mm bolt. And whatever the generic torque for that bolt would be fine. There you go. That one's installed. So with that in, we'll move on to the lower control arm. So the lower control arm, you're gonna have your two bolts. I see these already. I just want to make sure that, you know, I can get this in and out if I need to, if I break something on the track. So everything's already pre-anti-seized that I did. And then you want to make sure that you have the proper bushings on each side. So your smallest one's gonna go on the front rod end, on the front side of it. Then your second largest one is gonna go on the rear rod end on the front side of it. Your third smallest one is gonna go on the rear of the front rod end, and then your largest one is gonna go on the rear rod end on the back side. So try not to mix those up, and we'll get these in. So kind of try to slide that front one in and the bottom one in at the same time, because they do fit in quite tight. Should have tied this axle up. There we go. So these do fit in pretty snug, which is a good thing. Then line that up. There you go. Start these in by hand. So you can see there is a small gap here on each torque arm or torque box there. So that's going to close up. So you want a little gap. You don't really want it to be super tight, because once you tighten it, these ears will clamp down on it and there will be no play. So the tie rod, that was a 19mm. These are going to be a 24mm or a 15/16. you can see that that just clamped down on that. Now there's no play on that whatsoever. And then the front one looks like it's kind of a pain, but it's actually not too bad. So you can get your socket in there, lift your axle up, come from the back side with a swivel extension, and you can put your impact right on it. It's actually pretty nice. So, the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to get our camber arm in up here. So these blocking plates, these do have a direction. You can see it's got a sharp edge on the top. So you need to make sure that the sharp edge is on the inside on the top, because you need this rounded edge on the bottom on each side. That is to, there's like a weld there. So you need those on there to avoid that and have these sit flush. So you also have two different size spacers. I have the larger spacer right here. They're very close tolerance. It's not that much larger, maybe by like 20 thou. So that one is on the side of the cup with the snap ring. So make sure that you're on the side of the snap ring. And then, like I said, I had rubbing issues, so I put a washer on the other side. You might not have to. That's just a judgment call on you once you get to that point. So I'm actually gonna get this bolt in here, and I might be able to put that washer in after the fact. Let me get this light closer so you can hopefully see. There you go. It's a little better. So you can see where that spacer fits, right in there. Then we'll get this washer in here. All right, so we're gonna push that up with our flathead right into place. Once again, make sure that this is going the proper direction. So you're going to have this round edge in the back, and then your sharp edge towards the back on the top. This is about the only joint that you can't get a impact on. All right, now that that's tight, you can see that this moves up and down. These are kind of weird. They don't really like to move left and right, but they will once you get the suspension all together. It just takes quite a bit of force because it's actually got like a double bearing in here. It's a weird setup. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put the knuckle on. So we'll slide it on over this axle, and then we'll put it in the lower control arm. May have to pick this arm up a little bit while holding the knuckle to get it to line up right. That again, 24 millimeter. So we'll get this upper control arm in. You're going to have this, this has the larger spacer on the upper control arm, and then it's got the same type of spacer. It's smaller. That's going to be on your torque arm over here, or torque rod, whatever they want to call it. There's too many damn bars on these cars. So this will, pretty sure I have it this way on the other side. Yeah, it makes sense to me. So you'll slide this up and in, drop your washers on the ground to make things easier, and wiggle it in. So they use like aerospace type washers and bolts. So you want this bevel to be on the outside. The nuts aren't really, they don't really have the chamfer here, but the bolts do. So you're gonna wanna make sure that this bevel is facing out towards your fastener. With that in, we'll get the tie bar on. So he'll send you the right bolts for this. I just had this stuff laying around, so I told him not to worry about it. Basically, this is a factory bolt, and then I had a nut already, and it works fine. There's no slop in it whatsoever because it is the proper bolt for that. And I believe that that's an 18. But, oh, you shouldn't have to worry about it. So, once you get all this together too, make sure you check all your jam nuts. You're probably gonna have to adjust quite a bit of stuff, but they do send it pre-adjusted to an extent. So you're still gonna have to get the car aligned, but like the tie bar is loose here, right? So definitely don't wanna take the car on a test drive with that like that. So the next thing we're gonna do is the torque rod, torque bar, torque arm, whatever they want to call it. So this one's pretty straightforward. You got your spacer on the top. This goes towards the knuckle right there, and then this threads right in here, and you got two spacers of equal length for that bottom rod end there. So you may need to pick the arm up a little bit. And you can see the rod ends are kind of jammed up here. So you want to make sure that your rod ends are pretty centered when you put everything together. You don't want to have any bind for no reason. So we'll get this bolted and tightened up as much as we can, and then we'll get everything tightened up. Alright, that's it for the arms. As you can see, now they're pretty centered up, and then I can lock this in. I really got to talk with them more about the adjustment on this, but this is kind of for like your caster as you go up and down in the suspension. So it's pretty much just like use it as they give it to you, and you know, it's a dynamic adjustment. So you really want to talk to them about how you want your car set up, and they'll tell you how to adjust it. So the next thing we'll be installing are these gorgeous Feal coilovers. These are the Feal 442, and they're just really awesome, custom built. I got 6Ks in the back. It was a toss up between 5 and 6K. So this is what I started with. So this jam nut and this is for your height adjustment for the car, and then this adjuster here is really for your spring compression. You can use it a little bit for your height, but you don't want to compress the spring too much, or you know, you don't really want it to have any slop in there either. So that's why it's got the adjustable bottom right here. So they send you all the wrenches and everything you need for this, and you have your adjuster here, and then your adjuster on your canister too. I have to look more at the instructions. I think this is a rebound and this is just a stiffness, or it could be backwards, so don't quote me on that. All that stuff's readily available online, but we will get to installing these. So JTP has a custom upper shock mount, so it's pretty heavy duty, like 1/4 inch thick, maybe 3/8. So we will put these in using the factory bolts. This goes in just like that. And these are 18 millimeter. Then we're gonna have to pull the bolts that are already installed. These are 14 millimeters. I believe they are the same. They are. So with these shocks, you're going to need to use these spacers here on the sides of the rod end to fill up the gap. Also, make sure your adjuster is on the proper side. You don't want to mess yourself up with that. All right, now that that one's started, verify which way I have this. I think I have it facing the back on the other side. Yep. So I would face this towards the back. That way it gets out of the way of the wheel. You really don't want the wheel rubbing up on that. You're gonna have a bad time if that happens. So face that like that. Same thing. You got your spacers here on both sides of this rod end. And you'll lift this whole assembly up into the shock. Easier said than done. All right. So now is the last thing. We gotta put the sway bar link in. So I had an issue getting everything done with the rear suspension, and this is another thing you're gonna have to do because the car is not low enough with this spring perch down here, and I'm gonna run into this sway bar link. So what I need to do is I need to take these mounts and I need to oval it out as much as I can to push the sway bar back to get it out of the way from hitting the spring. So I'm gonna take these out, basically just use a Dremel, make it really big, and hopefully that works. Well, I said I was gonna use a Dremel, but I forgot that I have a plasma cutter, and you know what? They're not perfect, but it took me 13 seconds, and it's gonna work. So let's see how these actually line up. All right, so I'm trying to push this sway bar back, and all it's really doing is binding this more. So I just don't think that this tab is designed really for a factory sway bar. All right, well, nothing was working, so that side looks pretty good. And what I'm doing is I'm heating this sway bar up red hot, and I'm gonna twist this down to straighten out the alignment between this tab and this. So if you didn't want to do this, you could basically cut this tab off and move it. I think that's the only way that that would work with a factory sway bar. Looks pretty good if you want to look at it. What do you think? More or less? Maybe a little more? Science. All right. Grab the wrong thing. I think that looks good now. Yeah? Close enough. Good enough for who it's for. You good?
I think so. It doesn't hurt.
All right, so
I saw smoke when I touched it, though.
it's good for you. It builds nice calloused hands.
Yep.
So now when we put this up here and everything hits, because I got it too long, but you can see that it will fit pretty damn good. This side actually kind of fits, so. Doo-doo-doo. Just like that. Super mint. Hell yeah. That's the suspension install right there. Not too bad. Took me about 45 minutes with making the video, but I've also done this before. So you're probably looking at about like a 2-hour install if you're taking your time and going slow. It's not that bad. So there it is. That's the install of the Iwon Inc. Hotline Performance JTP rear suspension kit for the S550 Mustangs. Once I got all the right pieces, it went super simple and nice. So hopefully I've worked with them enough that the kits come right the first time. That's not saying anything really bad about them. They've been super helpful, and everything I've asked they've just given to me. It's like next day it's in a box and it's coming. So not terrible there. Just hopefully you get everything correct the first time. But overall, awesome kit, and I cannot wait to drive the car with all the new suspension in it. It's gonna be badass. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you want to see anything else.